The search of the 3 missing Montgomery College students continues in Frederick County.
And I got to play with your wand. It was great.
Definitely fun.
Keep going.
Welcome to Footage Foreplay, everybody. With special guest, Kyle. How you doing, Kyle?
Are you going to turn your camera on?
Yeah. Oh, I thought it was on. Oh, my bad. I thought I revealed myself.
I thought we were doing a bit.
Hold on. I am so sorry. This is a hot mess express. I can't see.
Wait.
Okay.
Oh,
Hi, everybody.
there it is. I was waiting for something.
You were waiting? Mm-hmm. Don't peek. I missed the peek because I be peeping. Peep, peep, peep.
Oh my god,
dude! I was not ready for that.
Are you not ready? Well, we got a whole hour. Let's get into it. How you doing, Kyle?
I'm good.
You made one of my favorite movies of 2025. Writer director of Don't Peek.
That's right.
I was thinking about this movie days after I watched this movie. Because I'm down for a movie with some stupid ass influences. And they move into this house and watch all these fucking tapes. They is just as nosy as I am. And that's where all the hell breaks loose. But get into it, Kyle. Tell us about yourself and tell us about creating this a masterpiece that you brought to us.
Oh man. I'm thrilled you loved the film. Basically, we were sort of talking about this before we started recording. There's sort of this question, right, of like, if everybody has the tools to make a feature film in their pocket, why don't you just do it? And the thing is, that's actually kind of annoying advice to get sometimes because like the people giving the advice are the ones with all the resources and access. We do have all these great tools in our back pocket, like smartphones, editing software has never been more accessible, all those things. But still really fucking expensive to make a movie. So for me, it Don't Peek kind of came about from this, like starting as like a thought exercise of how can I make a movie, that is allowed to kind of look and sound like shit. And that be part of it. And that brought me to found footage, which, fortunately, I have always been a fan of found footage. Paranormal Activity, like, made me sleep with my lights on for like 2 nights. I found Hell House LLC years ago and became like super, like, went down a big rabbit hole with that franchise.
How do you feel about the sequels of Hell House while you're on that? You like 2 and 3 and 4?
Don't put him down that road.
That's a tricky road to walk. Listen, I love what those filmmakers are trying to do. I love the lore. I love the big swings. I love what they're doing with like the Sleep No More parody. I believe that's in the 3rd one. Parody's the wrong word. Homage, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
No, and by the way, I did really like Origins.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that not the one that just came out, but
that's the newest.
That's about to come out. But yeah, the one that has come out. Yeah, that one I thought was actually really terrific, and did something really impressive, which you don't always see, which is they executed some really strong, horror sequences in broad daylight.
Yep.
That's really hard to do, especially with found footage, as we discovered making Don't Peek. But yeah, no, I worked backwards, sort of when I was coming up with the idea of like, okay, what are the tools I can access? What are the resources I have? Like, what can I leverage to make the best possible film with a excruciatingly tiny budget? Just for context, I think our production budget was about $10K. Mm-hmm. I think by the end of post, that probably creeped up to like $12K, but like probably 12-ish K out the door. So very, very, very tiny budget. Half of that went to our main location, which I think was money well spent. I think that's where the money should have been spent. But yeah, I was thinking about like who are the actors that I know that would be down to clown for something like this. Like what favors can I start pulling from people? What interesting props that are expensive to procure do I happen to have? Like he's thinking like
Yeah.
that, kind of working
Right.
backwards. And I don't know how much you guys know the background, but this actually wasn't the first found footage movie I wrote about influencers.
Go
This was
on.
actually the second attempt. The first attempt was a completely different movie called Follow Her, which I wrote back in 2019. Jesus. Yeah, 2019. To be clear, it was not produced, but it did get into the press. It got featured on the Hollywood Reporter because it placed in some contests. But yeah, that was sort of the same. Oh God, yeah, I only found that recently.
That's the first thing that came up when I searched your name in that title.
So
Isn't that strange?
Is this not
Yeah.
available to watch anywhere?
We never produced it. So
Oh,
that's the
what you
thing.
said. Okay.
So basically what happened, and this leads, there it is. Yeah. See, this leads directly into Don't Peek. I did the same exercise for Follow Her. I worked backwards from like, okay, I'm going to make a found footage movie. We're going to do it on a budget of like $10,000 or less. Like, how can we make that happen? And so I wrote this script. We were pretty deep in casting. Like I'd cast most of the principal parts. Kelly Rook Daly, who was Rebecca in Don't Peek, was meant to be the main character in Follow Her. I've worked with her across a bunch of short films over the years. So she was very much on board. We were location scouting. Like we were getting close to like spending some real money and doing this thing. And then I got a call from a longtime mentor who was like, have you started shooting yet? And I was like, not yet. And she's like, okay, don't. This is the script. It was like we were in Mulholland Drive or whatever, and they're like, "Yo, this is the girl.
Yeah.
This is the script. This is the one that can like really move the needle for you, like as a screenwriter." And the implication was sort of like, don't just shoot it as like a no budget feature. We think we can get some like real money for this. So I stopped. We kind of pulled the brakes. And we ended up attaching. The mentor asked to come aboard as a producer, and I agreed. She ended up bringing on a couple other producers who were excellent, and we worked on the script and developed it over the course of about a year, which is when COVID happened. So we had quite a lot of time to be sitting around. Even if we had proceeded, like I don't think we would have finished the movie before everything shut down, honestly. So maybe it was a blessing in disguise. We ended up doing a director search because their feeling was that since I had never directed a feature at that point, it would have been an obstacle to get financing. So we did a director search. We met with a bunch of people. I controlled the material, which gave me like quite a bit of say, more say than usual, than you would usually see for a project like this. But no, we found a wonderful director who has lots of credits, who was very excited to participate, which was great. So we put together that package and we took it out and we pitched it. And you'll notice the movie still doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Which happens. Like, it's such a bummer, but like, it's just the way it goes sometimes. We had so many people who were like, we love this script. We love the filmmaker. We love the project. Come back to us when you've already made it. Like that was sort of the catch-22 we found ourselves in. So eventually, now it's like 2020, end of 2022 or so, I'm sort of frustrated. We went from I'm about to shoot my first feature to I've spent 4 years not making anything. And I basically just was like, well, what's stopping me from just writing a different one that's free and clear? So I went back to the drawing board, and I ended up going back to an old short I made called Closed Loop, which is sort of referenced in Don't Peek by Mr. Peek a few times. That has a lot of broad similarities, including like a serial killer sort of stalking around homes, leaving his mark, using a VHS camera, watching his victims sleep over several nights before striking, and then the sort of ghosts of his victims coming back to get their revenge. But that was a short I made in like 2017, and at the time I was like, "There's something here. There's like there's a feature version of this, but I can never quite crack it." But yeah, so around like late 2022, I revisited it, and sort of saw the parallels and the interesting contrast between a serial killer that lives entirely in an analog world, that's in total isolation from everything else, and a YouTuber who wants to amplify every element of his life and commodify it. And that was sort of the seed that led to Don't Peak, which I ended up writing in about first week, like 4 weeks. First draft, like 4 weeks. Once I have like a sense of what the story is going to be, and I've kind of worked that out in like a loose treatment form, I can pump out pages very aggressively. And then, but that was early 2023 when we had a draft. I talked to Kelly. Kelly was on board. We got Jonathan not long after. He actually asked to audition. Paris? Yeah, Jonathan played Paris. He's the partner of a longtime friend of mine. And, I was at a party out here in LA, and, the sort of thing, because everybody asks, like, "Oh, what are you up to?" My thing was like, "Well, we're trying to cast this movie." And Jonathan asked me at the end of the party, he's like, "I'm trying to do some more acting, so I'd love to audition for you if you'd be open to that." And I was like, "Hell yeah, dude." And we did a chemistry read with him and Kelly after he sent me like some initial tapes. And I think we did like one scene, and they were like ready to keep going. I was like, honestly, like we can just, the part's yours if you want it. Like this works. This is great. And then, we shot it in June 2023. And then, we had post for about a year and 2 months. And the main reason for that is the post team was me, one person.
We know how that is.
For sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was also, I don't know if I'd mentioned this at all, but the assembly cut for this movie was, wait for it, 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yep.
What did you cut?
What the fuck didn't I cut? And that's why post-production took a whole year. God, we cut so fucking much. The ending sequence was originally quite a bit longer, actually. Spoilers for the movie if you haven't seen it yet. But Mr. Peak originally didn't die immediately after Rebecca took some swings at him with the hammer. Seriously injured but not dead. He originally chased after her, and there was a whole extended sequence with them sort of doing a cat and mouse thing in the house. But then all the ghosts come back, kind of gang up on him and kill him.
Okay. We like a chase scene.
I think conceptually it was exciting. Execution-wise, it didn't look good, frankly.
Yep.
One of the biggest challenges you have on a no-budget movie, right, is scheduling. Because it's really easy to incentivize, like just speaking frankly, and I don't hold it against literally anybody who's on the project. They gave so much to it. But like it's easier to incentivize someone to be there when you need them to be there when you're paying them.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a lot, some people got paid up front depending on their role, and a lot of the cast members have points or payments that trigger if and when we recoup. But it was a challenge to do night shoots. Is sort of the long-winded way of getting there, right? And so we shot that sequence during the day. I mean, you'll notice that throughout most of the finale. It's during the day. And that's just because it was the easiest way to get everybody in the room at once.
Yeah, so funny. Yeah.
And unfortunately, we had a wonderful makeup artist who did all the ghosts, including Tate Face and Mother and all of them. But just the makeup,
good, by the way, those are great.
She was great. She's she does a lot of work for Six Flags, like Fright Fest.
Yeah.
Oh, rad.
But she's also on I'm seeing her stories now. She's on so many film productions now. I'm so happy for her. She was an absolute joy to work with, and she did a lot. Basically, I showed up and was like, okay, we need to do this character Tape Face. There's going to be this tape around her face. Crazy. And then I just kind of needed to look like corpsey. I don't know what the hell that means. And she just did it. Like, she was a marvel. But yeah, that makeup and this is often the case, no matter how talented the makeup artist is, the makeup just didn't stand up to scrutiny in broad daylight. So yeah, the sequence, I wanted it to work really badly, but my producer, and now fiance, Caroline Klimchuk was,
I saw those pictures. Congratulations.
Thank you. No, she was like the second set of eyes I needed, especially during post, in terms of like, okay, let's look at this cut. And she would give me the hard truths in terms of like, "Wow, this is not working. You need to cut this."
Yeah, you got to have that. You got to have that honest voice, you know?
Wait, hold on. So your producer is now your fiance? How did that work out? Are you trying to...
I mean, we were dating at the time, to be clear. I've been... we've been together for 6+ years.
Oh, nice.
So it sort of just lined up, actually, because she mostly works in tech. And she produces sort of as like a side project. And it just lined up that between contracts, she had like a perfect 3 weeks for when we were shooting. So she was able to be on set every day, which was awesome.
Right on.
Well, hold on. Terrell, don't kill me. I want to go on a brief tangent here. She's in tech. Does she do like programming, or is she in the AI world?
No. More like project management type stuff.
Yeah, well, dude, Terrell, a couple days ago, Google revealed their new AI, which is called a filmmaker tool. It's called VO3. Boy. Dude, have you seen it?
What does it do?
Video. And I watched the trailer and I sat there and I was like, oh shit, am I going to have to like pivot? Like, should we be doing a film fest and a podcast talking to filmmakers and shit? I had a moment. I had 5 minutes where everything kind of got shook up and then I refocused. But yeah, anybody listening, you want to go check it out. It's VEO3. Go terrify yourself. I did send it to Evan right after and I said, you're fucked, dude. You better hurry up with that movie. Because Evan's working on his own documentary in-world camera thing. So we're very familiar with the like, let's cut this 3-hour scene into 20 minutes. And it's like, fuck. What do you do?
That was one of my, the one thing I wanted to ask you when you were talking about that is how you talked about pumping out the pages and the script and stuff. How close, you know, and this was your first feature, how close did you stick to that script when you were shooting? Were you like, you know, because you said you had to change that scene to shoot during the day. You had a long post-production process. So did you shoot a lot more than
I think we shot like, in terms of like just the literal sequences that were on the page, I'm pretty sure, I'm trying to keep myself honest here, that we basically shot everything that was there. We kept, I mean, look, it's found footage, so we kept things like reasonably loose on set, especially for those longer takes. Like I wasn't going to redo something because somebody had a slightly different, you know, way of getting to the same place in a conversation. But yeah, I mean, I would say, sorry, I completely lost my train of thought.
Well, no, you didn't write a 240-page script, right?
No, the page, the script was definitely too long before we locked it.
Yeah.
But we got it down. And when I say long, I mean, it was like 118 pages.
Okay, yeah.
We got it down to like 105, I want to say. Before we started shooting, which felt okay to me, and then in practice, it obviously didn't. One thing I do want to credit, as long as we're talking about like the script, I do want to credit Jonathan, who played Paris, for bringing a lot of really great character-driven insights to how he perceived Paris, because he works, you know, for the Try Guys, which are some prominent YouTubers.
Yeah, let me pull them up.
Who have built like a really a really major like media ecosystem.
Yeah, he seemed too good in that role.
Yeah, he knocked it out of the park. Like, yeah, these guys are big. These are a big deal.
Oh, okay.
Almost 8 million subscribers, right?
Yeah.
So he's done a lot of work with them. And so he had like, a lot of thoughts about like how I'd written the Winters and like how influencers, not just the Try Guys too, but like when you're embedded in that world, you see all sorts of people in that space.
Yeah.
I think he had a really good sense of how they would behave. So he came to me when we were doing like our sort of like character research sessions or whatever with some really smart ideas on how to adjust sort of how Paris was behaving. And it was great because he was bringing solutions instead of problems, because he's a writer and filmmaker himself. So he knows how frustrating it is to just show up and be like, hey, I don't believe this. Right? Because that's not super helpful. It was his idea, actually, and this obviously prompted a pretty radical rewrite, to have Paris lie to Rebecca about continuing to film the gratitude tapes.
Oh, okay.
Originally, Rebecca was fully aware the camera was there for all of those gratitude tapes. And he was like, I think she'd put her foot down, and I think Paris would just keep recording anyway.
He
would find different ways to do it.
He was annoying as hell. I was like, Mr. He sure was.
Yeah, Kyle, while we're talking about the YouTube stuff, in the in-world camera like landscape, we get a lot of like vloggers, and traditionally it's filmmakers kind of punching down, or I don't know if they're like mad about how YouTube is kind of like this new alternate route into like content versus film. But we always get like these kind of like villainous narratives for them, and it gets kind of like boring.
Sure.
And one thing that they always fucking get wrong that you nailed is how different YouTube videos are edited. And I was so happy when I saw you doing like punch-ins and kind of like smash cuts and just like these kind of like no-nos that are very the culture for YouTube. Like I would always be like, dude, in a found footage mixed media movie, like if we're doing screen life and then handheld cam, it should be communicated through the editing what platform we're on. And you go from 4:3 to like, a vloggers with a tripod, and it's perfect. Yeah, like you nailed it. Are you a YouTube fan, or was that all?
Yes. So thank you. Definitely something we really worked out in post-production. Like we had plans to like obviously edit it in such a way that it would resemble the sort of YouTubers that the Winters were, of course, trying to emulate. To answer the question, basically a lot of my exposure to this stuff and the way I started to kind of think about it was one of my first jobs out here in Los Angeles was actually working for like a management company for influencers.
Okay.
So this was back in like late 2016, early 2017, where obviously the environment was like a little different, but you still saw like, God, I mean, there was these junior managers who would basically scour YouTube looking for like talent that they could like sign and pick up and like try to like build up. And it was just so craven, and so mercenary, and just so manipulative, especially when they started to involve kids, like, the family YouTubing. Like I find that type of thing kind of vile, personally, but no, I mean, and I think what you quickly discovered, and the Follow Her script got into this like very explicitly in a way that there wasn't really an opportunity to with Don't Peek, because it didn't make sense for the story, was that for me there's a difference, and it's a really important difference between content, if that's how we wanted to refer to like YouTube content that has like a specific inherent value, and content that is just somebody commodifying their life. So I'm thinking of like people who do like cooking channels, or people who do movie reviews, or they have an expertise in something or an enthusiasm for something, and they're sharing that, or a skill or whatever, and they're sharing that with, like, there is a value
you're
to
like
what
expertise
they're doing.
And then you looked around this call and you're like, or they're just really into it.
I know, I saw that. I was about to say, do I like my reviews? I'll be reviewing.
No. And by the way, this is an example of something where like there is an inherent value to what you're doing, to the content that you're creating, because it's important to analyze, discuss, pick apart art. Like, it doesn't matter the genre. Like, clearly there's an audience for this stuff, and it's great. what I take more issue with, and what you see with the Winters, are the people who commodify every element of their lives.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Because they don't.
I was agreeing with Mr. Peaks. Because I was like, you ain't got to put everything on the damn internet. That's why he wanted his little tapes to himself. Like, sometimes, you know. And I like that you brought that to light, because it was more than just a horror movie. You had a lot of that insight too. The two sides of that. So
Yeah, no, go ahead.
It seems like you relate a lot to Mr. Peak. So is that how that character came to? Like, how did this look come to? Like, how did you bring this to life? I don't know how that person breathed in this mask, because it's so hard. But I want to know. Like,
yeah, I don't remember Mr. Peaks having the moisture build up either.
Dude.
I know, because I'm here dying.
Terrell, pop it off, dude. Like, you've done a half hour. You can.
I'm you know how I am. My characters. I got to stay in character.
Oh my god.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So this is an answer to your question, but it's going to sound like it isn't for a second.
Okay.
I have a theory, sort of a working hypothesis about like what horror kind of like sticks in people's minds, and not even just horror, but like movies in general. Actually, like what movies sort of persist in the public consciousness, and which ones kind of just fade out over time, even if they're really good. And well received, and that's the iconic image. Like, I think every movie that like persists in the public consciousness, or is like part of the popular culture conversation, has some sort of iconic image that sticks in your brain, and it's often what people go to when they do merchandise based off of a movie. It's like an easy visual benchmark that like connects your brain to the movie. Like, you think of any, like throw what are some movies you like that are like really popular?
Trash Humpers.
No, don't do that. Why
You
would
said really popular.
not racist.
No.
Anyways,
Example,
Nightmare on Elm
don't they
Street,
have-
Scream.
They have the old people masks. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
But
Trash Humpers
that's
is
not
actually a good
popular.
example.
You might as well have said
Yeah,
Flush Games.
but people know about it.
Got
Like, people
it.
think about it. You know what
I
I'm
don't
saying?
think, I don't think about that movie. I don't. Mm-mm.
I'm just saying, it's mind-boggling that you have all of these. You know, that it's unfathomable how many like feature films exist, right?
Yeah.
And there's so many excellent ones that have just sort of disappeared from view, even though they're still like in theory available. They're still accessible. They're not lost films or anything.
Yeah.
But people don't think about that. So for me, it was like, okay, so how do I incorporate iconic images into this found footage movie? Something like kind of memorable that's going to like hopefully stick with people. And working backwards from there, I was like, okay, well, the serial killer can't just be a serial killer. Like, who doesn't wear something? He's got to have something going on. And I worked with Robbie, the guy who played Mr. Peak. And we developed sort of a backstory for the Mr. Peak character about wanting to join, like having like sort of a faux military background. Like, he wanted to join the military and play soldier.
Yeah.
But he couldn't even get through like basic training and gets like kicked out, sent back to mommy at home.
Huh?
But he still like has this sort of like weird, like kind of twisted
fantasy over here.
Yeah, I mean, Gasmaster associated, of course, with World War II and World War One, and then you got the camo stuff. Like, it just sort of came together as like, okay, this is a good justification, not just for like a lot of some of his like character psychology, but like how we costume him and make him look really interesting. And you see some of that stuff with Tape Face too, and the ghosts. That was something I really wanted to get in there.
How did that come from? Did that come from your nightmares? Because that was scary too. You had to dream that up and say, "Oh, we doing this."
So, fun fact: Tape Face, the tape on all of the ghosts, actually, not just Tape Face. That's actually bondage tape or sex tape.
Kinky. Okay, Kyle.
If you're not familiar.
That's why he came on footage foreplay, dude.
Yeah, I just,
50 Shades of Tague over here.
There you go.
Actually, wait, you got it.
Oh,
yeah, I was scared to say this last name because I was like, I'm going to butcher this. I saw some tiles or tape. I didn't know.
Before
before
we started recording, we had a whole conversation where these guys were like trying to, like, they didn't want to say it, but
That's
they were
why
like,
I didn't.
no, How do we say your last name? Evan, you got it.
Hell yeah.
He probably looked it up.
He did. He probably
What do
said
you
how to spell it. Yes, he did.
Where's he going to look it up?
He asked Google. He said, "How do you pronounce this?"
Oh,
Okay.
God.
Terrell, what would
Took
have
a
you
shot.
been? So I wanted to play a game.
I thought it was
And
Todd.
I had to say it that way to fit the joke because Gray and Tague, I had to.
Yeah, the
Even
joke
if I was
didn't
wrong,
work.
Right.
The
I
joke
had to-
didn't work.
He laughed. That's all I cared about.
Yeah, you don't get a lot of those.
Y'all
so
never
we
laugh
did.
at my jokes. I'm used to that.
Yeah, you're not funny.
Wait, so Terrell, what would your guess have been for his last name?
I thought it was like Tog or something like that. Tog?
I've heard
Tog?
Tog before.
Yeah,
I
I
would've
almost said
said-
Kyle Tog, but I didn't want to fuck it up, so I just said, "Hey, Kyle," you know.
Well, I called him Mr. Tagu right off the bat, but then
Tagu.
My
that
real
ain't
guess.
Asian. He ain't kung fu fighting. Come on now.
Well, my real guess probably would have been Taj.
Like
Taj?
Taj Mowry?
Taj, yeah, like Taj, but like it was like French or like, I don't know how I got there.
You
Don't
probably-
ask me.
Okay.
That's one of the
Taj.0.
ones where I'm like,
So it's
I get
Tag. Say it
Tog.
again.
It's
Say it-
Tag.
Okay, Tag. We got it. KT. We
Pretend
got it,
there's like
KT.
a Y after the A in there, and it makes
Tag. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
I feel like that's what
we-
the U does. It takes
so-
the responsibility of what the Y would do.
Oh,
You know.
good job.
I wish more people
So
understood
let's get
that.
back.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the bondage. Let's get back to the bondage conversation. So the kinkiness
Yeah.
of that mask, of the tape face. You were there.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, the fun thing about bondage tape is it sticks to itself and only itself. So,
Oh.
what that means is you can wrap it really taut around the performers and remove it without it actually hurting the skin. It doesn't
Yeah, see, I
adhere
was-
to the skin at
I was
all.
going to come in as a tape face, but I said, my face going to be red afterwards. I know bondage
Yeah.
tape.
So the main tape face is this wonderful actress named Layla Ali, who I met doing Halloween Horror Nights.
Oh, I love Horror Nights.
All the way back in 2016. I was a scare actor there for 5 total years.
Whoa.
Oh, shit. Oh, I love
Mostly
it.
as a side hustle.
Wait, what kind of characters did you
Yeah,
play?
who were you?
First year, I was in the American. It was 2016. I was in the American Horror Story maze. So I was Dandy from Freak Show.
Oh,
the
one in the
Finn Whitrock
underwear?
character. Yeah,
Which
it was
one?
like silk pajamas.
Oh,
It was
okay.
actually like, I felt so bad. That was like a record, like hot September or something. It was like approaching 100 degrees. And like, yeah, people are in these like really elaborate, like, God, speaking of like kinky stuff, they had the, what's the name of from Murder House? The guy in like the gimp suit or whatever.
Oh,
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I don't remember what the name of it is.
What,
Rubberman?
They were like,
The Rubber
Rubberman.
Yep.
Those were like actual like rubber suits that they had
Oh
those
my
poor
God.
performers in, and they were overheating like hell. Meanwhile, I'm over here in my nice silk pajamas, which were literally silk.
Okay, Dan.
Oh yeah, that's me.
Get some
Yeah, so I
Dandy
was
Yeah,
that character.
He was awful.
And then kind of every year after that, I got, because I ended up doing, like, very stupidly, I don't recommend doing this. I did Horror Nights like in addition to like my full-time job for subsequent years, which if you're not like super familiar with the event, this is like a thing where you show up at like 3 p.m. to like get checked in, get your makeup on, get your costume, get down to set or whatever. And then you're not leaving, you're not really clocking out till 3 a.m.
Damn.
So you basically go to work and then go to other work and then sleep for 6 hours and then go to other work again. And it just kind of works that way. It was not smart, but I did make a decent amount of money.
Oh, good.
And I met a bunch of collaborators who ultimately appeared in this film.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so when I was doing that, when I was doing it in conjunction with my other jobs, I was in what they call the pool, which is basically a group of swing performers, like people that they can slot into holes when other people call out.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's what she said. Yes.
Okay. I was. Yep.
Yep. I know. I can see you're like, do I?
Talking bondage
I
tape
did
and
all
you're a
sorts
swing
of things.
performer.
So
You
what
gonna
other
tee it up like
characters
that?
were you?
Oh God. I was. Let's see. I was. the piggy man from American Horror Story Roanoke. That one was a pain in the
Cool.
ass. Let's see. I played like a character in the Insidious maze that was supposed to be like the main villain in Insidious 4. Oh, I probably shouldn't say that. Actually, it's in a deleted scene. It's in a deleted scene, so you can figure it out. I also worked for Blumhouse, so I have to like kind of be careful.
Yeah.
That's
you
what I
get
say.
that. Mm-hmm.
No. It was in the deleted scene. I'm not revealing anything crazy here. Originally, Lin Shaye's dad in that movie was supposed to have a bigger part. So he was really prominent in the haunted house because it came out before the movie did. So I'm playing this character that nobody recognizes, and everyone's just like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" I remember I texted a picture of myself like in the spooky makeup to my boss at the time, and she went, "Not scary."
Oh, that's rough.
Damn.
All right. So yeah, I played the red-faced demon a bunch.
Cool.
From Insidious.
Yeah.
That costume was a
That was
trip.
iconic. Was it?
All right, Kyle. I got a tough question for you. Okay.
Okay.
So brace yourself. Buckle up.
I'm
now,
ready.
I don't know if you can tell.
Yeah.
We got Mr. Peep here. Why is it Mr. Peep, by the way?
Because I didn't want to be like Pete, because that's already taken. And I talk a lot. So
This is a copycat
Copyright
killer.
infringement.
There you go. So I got to
Okay.
switch it up.
So we got Mr. Peep here.
Don't
And
peep.
I don't know
I'ma
if you can
get
tell,
you.
but our co-host is a black man.
What?
And we have gone to
Where's this going?
Halloween
I
Horror
know, who's
Nights.
trying to get him?
Hey, we've gone to Halloween Horror Nights a lot.
Oh, don't do this. Don't do
And
that.
here's the
Okay.
thing.
Oh, God.
You know,
Hit me.
he's our he's not a token. He's very important in our friend group. And I have a theory that y'all be targeting our Terrells out there. And I'll tell you, and I understand why. Because out of the group of people we had a Filipino friend,
Yeah.
Russian Ukrainian, and then me. I'm just a mutt. It's not worth getting into.
You were in the back
And-
just watching and laughing, everybody.
And Terrell's the only one of our group that ran into a wall and fell down.
I did.
So
it
I
was so
understand why.
embarrassing.
It was hilarious, Terrell. you
Because
made
it
that
was-
Michael Myers night. I'm sure.
Because the Myers, they popped out from two different sides. I'm not used to two people
Yeah.
popping out at me like that. And it fucked me up. So I was trying to run this way, and another one popped this way, and I screamed, and I fell into the wall. It was so embarrassing.
So Kyle,
Yeah.
if you saw us coming,
Yeah.
would Mr. Peep here have a target on him? You're like, I'm gonna get that dude.
Well, so here's my question. Terrell, were you like, how was your body language? Were you obviously scared or frightened or like
yeah.
trying to get out of there? Because that's really
After the
catnip
first
for
guy,
us.
yes. And that's when the second one came
Yep.
to get me. He double teamed me, and not in a good way.
I do want to emphasize like how little we can frequently see in there. Like it depends
Oh.
on the position. Some of those masks have atrocious visibility.
Yeah.
Like technically we have eye holes, but like God help us, we're hoping we just don't hit somebody, you know?
Yeah.
Some of us now, my understanding is now more people have monitors. So we have like a tiny little monitor that shows who's coming through, like in real time. So we can kind of pick and choose who we strike at. In those instances, it really kind of just is up to the performer what they're doing. In theory, they're supposed to be basically hitting their trigger every 7 to 10 seconds, depending on how long the sequence is. If it were me, I would probably just go for the person who looks like they're the most scared.
Yeah.
Like, and don't get me wrong, I like a challenge sometimes, but sometimes the people who are like, you know, kind of like folding their arms,
That's
like clearly
Russell.
trying to act tough, like they're not having a good time. Like, those guys might hit you. And like, if you get hit, it's not even just that like it hurts and all that, but like you got to go fill out a bunch of paperwork. Like it's
Oh
a
my
huge
God.
pain in the ass. Anytime
Yeah.
there's guest on performer contact, like they take that. They do, to Universal's credit, they take that stuff really seriously.
Well, have you, when you worked in these things, have you ever, you know, a lot
Yeah.
of celebrities go to this, or reality stars.
Oh, yeah.
Is there any like
Oh, yeah.
celebrities that you might have scared or popped up on?
Dude,
Oh,
that's why he
God.
was there. He was scouting for influencer talent. He had a contract ready.
No, dude, so many. Basically, whoever like Blumhouse was working at the time, they would like for whatever like movies were coming out, they would
Yeah.
always come through. Slash, that was actually probably the fun one. Slash came that first year they did the Universal Monsters,
I bet he
like
really
sort of
couldn't see
relaunch.
shit.
There was I don't know if you remember that one from 2018, but they had that great scene with Dr. Frankenstein like cutting up the bride like on a like surgical table. And it was this big open scene. It wasn't like people popping out. It was more cinematic.
Oh, as you
And
walk
they
in. Okay.
well, so they stopped the line so he could kind of go through like
Hmm.
alone. And he came in. He was just like so floored by like how cool the scene was
Mhm.
that he was just sort of standing in there like going like hell yeah like over and over.
Oh
Like he
my
just like
God.
literally he was in there with his partner and I think they were in there for like a full minute before they moved on. They
Yeah.
like watched us do our thing over and over and eventually we were kind of like this is it. It's like,
Right.
Wow.
like I have a few things I liked. I was the swing for Dr. Frankenstein, which was probably my favorite role I've ever done there. That was really fun. But yeah, I had a few things I could do for that. But they're like once you get past 30 seconds, it gets a little you run out of things really fast.
Right.
But yeah, no, we see all sorts of people come through. If you have any visibility at all, I'm sure there were times where people were, there were famous people coming through, and I just couldn't fucking see them.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah, Terrell met Soldier Boy there, right?
No, I met Tyga
Okay.
and some other dude from. Remember, I took a picture with Tyga.
I know you
Behind
did.
him was somebody else. I didn't know who the hell that man was, but all the comments were like, "Oh, you didn't shout out whoever the fuck that guy was in the back." I don't listen to his music. I don't know who the fuck that was.
It was a reality star, right?
Yeah, and he was. I think it's the dude who was dating Cher, A1 or something,
Oh.
and she's like 70, 80, and he's
Like
like
the steak
in his
sauce?
20s. I don't know, girl. He's a rapper. Anyways, he's a rapper, reality TV star. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, I mean, it was great. I met him and I saw some people from some show on MTV. They were walking into the VIP thing. But besides that, that's all I seen. It was fun though.
Damn. That's so, that whole time you were talking about Slash, I'm like, that's got to be incredible if you're a performer and you're just like, I would feel like I'd want to like fucking scare the shit out of that dude. And
Me
like,
too. I want to
there's,
scare the celebrities. That's
well,
what
why
I'm
not?
doing. Yeah,
You
it'd be
do your
fun.
job. And then they'll go out and they'll tweet about it and then everybody will come out except I also could imagine being outside in that 1.5 mile long line, like, dude, it's not fucking moving. Because Slash is
Yeah.
in there watching Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, you motherfucker.
yeah.
Those lines
That's
Those
are
lines are
rough.
too damn long for Chucky, and it was like 2 minutes. I was like, this shit was too
oh
quick.
man. I'll be real with you. We started doing the RIP tours,
Mhm.
which if you're not familiar, if you're listening, it's like VIP but like cute.
Mhm.
And like we can't go back. Like we've done it 2 years in a row now, and it's just like I can't wait in those lines anymore.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
and by the way, I am a huge theme park. Here, I'll plug my out of print book,
Let's
The
see.
Cynic's Guide to a Reasonable Theme Park Vacation.
What the
Okay.
Hell
fuck?
yeah. Yeah, I was going to bring that up because you have in your bio that you occasionally design theme park rides, and I was curious what that
Yeah.
was.
So I worked for a company that at the time was called Retroactive. I believe they've since rebranded. I worked for them for a couple years. They're the guys behind the Springfield, like Simpsons areas in both Florida and Hollywood. They also did the full sort of rebrand of the like upper deck, the upper lot of Universal Studios Hollywood, like that kind of new opening Hollywood street that's there, and the tower. That was all them. Probably the biggest project, like much like movies, theme parks are a lot of pitching and a lot of development that never see the light of day. So there's a bunch of crap that's covered by NDAs that I'm not allowed to talk about, which is the bummer.
Yeah.
But one thing that we did get from basically initial pitch to physical opening was the Cartoon Network Hotel in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, of all places. But I was a creative producer and project manager for that project. And some of the early pitches I had, like, very, very blue sky early stuff, did end up making it in some form to the final product, which was super cool.
Oh.
Yep, that's the one.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
This is rad.
It was a really cool project. It was awesome to work with the Cartoon Network guys. They did a bunch of like custom animation for like some projection map stuff in the lobby. And in there's like a cartoon kitchen restaurant. You see, if you look at that image there's the elevator. That's like a fake. That's a fake glass thing. It's actually just like a OLED screen.
Oh,
So they did like custom animation, so it's like the characters are like riding up and down the elevator.
Okay.
So cool.
So yeah, that was a huge undertaking. That was a very, very tight window. And a tight budget, but I'm proud of what we were able to pull together on that one. It also just taught me a lot about, like, you go to a theme park and you're like, why did you design something this way? Like, this is such a, like, why did you cut corners on this or that? When you take something from, the very early conceptual stages to the point where you actually have to pass like legal scrutiny, you start to understand why certain decisions get made. And one I'll just throw out because it's extremely true is it's really deceptively hard to make a 3D physical sculpt of a 2D cartoon character. It's really hard.
Yeah.
You saw in the images, you had the like Finn and Jake from Adventure Time there at the front.
Right.
Yeah.
That required so much work to get right. So many passes from all the involved parties, and everybody was great. Like, everybody wanted to make the best possible thing, but you would think, or I guess maybe you guess, like, oh, well, it can't be that like tremendously difficult. And I assure you, it is. So when you see theme parks and you're like, why does that sculpt look wonky? It's hard. I get it. I understand. Anytime I see a sculpt that doesn't look like 100% amazing or like screen accurate, I'm like, I get you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sure whoever worked on this worked really hard. Or maybe just didn't have the resources to get it where it needed to go.
So you're a theme park expert. I'm going to go ahead and put that title on you.
Sure, I'll take it.
You wrote a book about it.
Yeah.
I did.
It counts. Can I ask you, has anybody ever actually been decapitated on a roller coaster?
Domestically, I can't think of a case. I would say probably
it's like a weird urban legend, right? Like every theme park, I feel like has their local, like, oh, somebody went back to get their hat or something, and this came around and took it off.
Yeah, I mean, look, there have absolutely been incidents where guest negligence has led to collisions with ride vehicles.
What a lawyerly way to put that.
I mean,
I'd be scared. Roller coasters are kind of scary, Kyle. You like the height and the drops and all that shit?
Oh, I love coasters to a point. There's some where I'm just like, I don't get I don't think I'd get on like the Top Thrill Dragster 2 or whatever. I don't see the point of that.
Top Drill Dragster 2? Was that what you said?
The Top Thrill Dragster 2.
Oh, okay. It's a drill. So what you drill? What's a drill?
Oh, this is a Cedar Point thing.
Yeah, I grew up in Ohio, so I'm very familiar with those parks. But I'm trying to remember. Probably the worst disaster I can think of. See, my issue with this kind of ride is it's effectively a drop tower.
Yeah.
Like, it's barely a roller coaster. You know what I mean? Like, the Millennium Force at Cedar Point, that's a giga coaster. That's over 300 feet. But, like, it has an actual layout. Like, it is a coaster. It isn't just a glorified launch.
That's like a drop and it goes up and drops again.
That's it.
That's why Final Destination 3 kind of fucked me up because I used to work at Six Flags when I was in high school. And So, and then you see this and all the people dying and shit. Final Destination, love the movies. But, how did that movie affect you as a kid, knowing that you loved Final Destination?
Oh, Final Destination 3?
Yeah.
I fortunately or unfortunately did not really get into the Final Destination movies until like much later in my life when I was like old enough to like separate. Well, I think the other reason is I don't like, and I wonder how much of this applies to some of the other things that Final Destination uses for set pieces. Though I'm trying to remember the specifics of what goes wrong on the roller coaster in the Final Destination 3 set piece. And I remember thinking when I finally watched it, this wouldn't have the result that, like, this wouldn't happen this way. Like, there's no there's no version of this where this happens. So therefore it didn't scare me very much. Whereas like the logging truck, that feels like a thing that could actually happen, you know? Yeah, like the roller coaster thing. And by the way, I get it. Like, I'm sure there's lots of things that don't stand up to scrutiny if somebody is like an expert in their field and they watch a horror movie explain how something could go terribly wrong. And they're like, well, that's stupid. But like most people don't know that. So I don't blame them at all for, you know, doing a roller coaster as their like big marketing set piece. That makes total sense. And I know it fucked up a lot of other people. Like I have friends who ask me about that movie all the time. Domestically though, I'd say probably the worst like death or fatality that wasn't, because that's the thing. Most of the time when you have major injuries or fatalities on amusement park rides, it's guest negligence. The guest is doing something stupid that they were warned not to do, that they shouldn't be doing. They do it anyway, and then they get hurt. That's like basically what happens when somebody enters a ride area and gets hit by a train. Like if they've dropped their hat or whatever. That's why you have all those huge fences with all those huge signs being like danger, you know? Like
right. It's like the equivalent of climbing into an animal cage at the zoo. It's fucking stupid. Yeah. You know?
It's exactly the same thing. You think about them like metal beasts, right? But there was I forget which Six Flags park it was, but one of their Superman coasters, the restraints failed. And a guy fell out.
Oh my god!
And that was
too big.
I rode that in Atlanta, the Superman in Atlanta, the Six Flags there.
Is that the one? I'm not even
know
sure
if that's where it happened,
Superman. Because they all have a Superman coaster, so it's sort of like, I'd have to look it up. But I remember when that one came out, that one was really scary because it was a big question of like, well, how did this happen? The arguably even scarier, I mean, there was there were two fatalities at Disneyland that were Disney's fault.
Disney be killing people.
No, I mean, it was pretty brutally sad. Not even that long ago. I want to say in the early 2000s, Big Thunder Mountain Railroad at Disneyland Park in California had a fatality. I'm trying to remember the exact circumstances of what happens, but basically, if I'm remembering right, I don't know if you've been on the ride or if you've seen the ride. You have like the train of like a traditional coaster train, and then you have sort of the decorative like locomotive train, like the Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, like, you know, train front. My understanding is there was some sort of issue with a part that caused those two elements to become disconnected from one another.
Oh god! And
then the train rolled back and struck the rest of the train and crushed the people in that first car, which is ultimately what killed them. And that one was obviously especially tragic because that was during the era. Paul Pressler was the head of the parks at that point, and he had made it a point to really cut back on maintenance and just general park upkeep. And there were warnings, basically. People were like, we are not staying on top of things the way we should be because we don't have the resources to do it. And that was the result.
Damn.
Really, really horrific. Damn. And I'd like to think that they obviously have changed their way since then. But I mean, we could do a whole podcast about how I feel about
Don't Peek. So, so Don't Peek is now streaming on Found TV. It's on Tubi.
Yes.
I love me some Tubi. I like to review the movies up on there. Love Tubi. And so what's next for Don't Peek? Like, are we gonna get some physical media? Because I love me a good Blu-ray.
Oh man, I am a huge, huge physical media lover. I have. God, I'm glancing over at my shelves.
Prove it. God, can you move your camera?
Oh, I want to see some of your movies.
We like to look.
This is dangerous.
We're
I'm gonna
voyeurs.
try.
I know we're almost done here, but I
know you got a rear window up there, so appreciate the voyeur.
Let's see. Here we go.
Let's see. Oh, look at his son. Okay, nice.
Yeah.
He's got a Chucky down there.
Oh,
I
where's
got my
Chuck?
good guy.
Oh, hell yeah. I love it. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
So no,
so
I have
physical
tons of
media.
discs. I would love, um, I would love for Dome Peak to get a physical release of some kind. I know that our distributor, Terror Films, was in conversation with at least one boutique label
Okay.
to see if they were going to potentially do some DVD runs of quite a bit of films in the library.
Hmm.
I should actually follow up on that and see if anything's happening there. If not, I believe I retain the right to, basically do physical media with someone else
Yeah.
like myself without their involvement. I just was
Yeah.
like, well, sure. If you want to leverage your relationships to see if you can do something, that'd be great. But yeah, I would love, if that doesn't work out, I would love to find a way to get at least a DVD out there. I would love
Okay.
to have a physical copy to hold in my hand. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, the new like route of distribution online, like Terror Films,
Yeah.
we know a lot of them, or Horror Kings, or like any of
Yeah.
those like YouTube channels. It's interesting how they're kind of only focused on the rights for like that platform, and they'll let you go
Yeah.
do whatever the hell you want. It's been really interesting because we're living in an age where found footage movies and in-world camera stuff in general it's got a fan base, but
Yep.
for some reason traditional outlets don't believe it yet. And then
Now,
yeah, I honestly
yeah.
I think it helps a film like Don't Peek to just kind of pop up on YouTube though. There's something
True.
about that makes it feel like the Wild West.
Yeah, it was fun watching it on YouTube. That's when I first watched it, when it first dropped on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it was great.
Yeah, so that wasn't a choice early on. That's just kind of where you ended up, or
that is kind of where we ended up. I guess Tubi, it was supposed to be on Tubi along with Found TV and the other platforms when the initial release happened. I guess Tubi's been like over inundated with like movies to ingest, so there were some technical delays there. Though obviously we're happy to have it up. But I totally hear what you're saying about like, because it almost feels like it's part of it if it's like just this strange thing you find on YouTube, because like feasibly this is where you would find this constructed documentary. You would just see it uploaded to some channel on YouTube. So yeah, I mean, I totally get that.
And
I've found
like,
lots of cool stuff that way.
You've got good company, because most recently there's Milk and Cereal went up and blew up, and then we had Rap
film.
World. Rap World was another big
Rap
one.
World rules, yeah.
Dude.
Oh, I haven't seen that one. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, and they're just kind of, there's something about like when a movie's put out, it's been vetted, right? And you're like, this is a film. Sure. It's kind of like the problem with the Blair Witch. When you look back, you're like, dude, it's playing in a movie theater. Like people, like
it can't be an actual snuff film, right?
Yeah, but like YouTube, there's still a little bit of that like direct from the filmmaker, and you're like, I don't know what the fuck we're getting into.
Yeah, and it was good. That shit sat with me, no lie. So if you were to do like
that's a good point,
like a Blu-ray or physical release, would you put some of those extra bonus stuff you were talking about, like behind the scenes stuff, was all the extra footage you dropped from the, would you add?
It'd be pretty easy. Yeah, it'd
That'd
be pretty easy to add
into.
like a lot of the extended footage. I mean, yeah, because we cut, like I said, we cut 40 minutes. The most frustrating thing I think that we cut beyond the ending was we shot this whole great sequence on a train, like one of those like little trains that go through a park, through Griffith Park, and it was supposed to be one of those like, a fan in the wild sees them and like, kind of like covertly records like their private conversation that's happening on this train ride. And so, yeah, we went out of our way to like, set this up on the train and do this whole sequence. And it ended up, here we go. It was one of these guys.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
it was fun. And it came out looking really cool. And the scene was great. It was towards the middle of the movie. It was meant to be their debate over whether or not like ghosts can exist or not. Except it was obviously unfiltered because they didn't think they were being filmed at the time. And that's, of course, why, that was in the script, because I needed an opportunity to dig into that. But it took up too much time. And we realized that, like,
Kill
we
those
can
darlings.
get across. Yeah, we can get across the friction in the next scene. Like we'll just accept that something happened off camera. We did slip a single shot of it into the movie though, in the early montage.
Oh.
Like when they're first telling us about like what they do. There's one
Mhm.
shot on the train, and we just sliced it from that scene because it's like we did all this work. We might as well get something out of it.
Yeah.
But I would love to include like stuff like that because there are quite a few like involved sequences that might be useful to see. I don't know.
I got one more question for you relating to that,
me.
because the one thing that felt like everything feels natural when we're moving from like handheld voyeuristic like 4:3 video to webcam tripod YouTube. There's the one candid video that we catch of the Winters, and
Yep.
a couple of people walking in the background, they're blurred out. And to me, I'm like, I like in my head, I was trying to paint a picture of who you might be. And I'm like, is this somebody who's overly concerned with like legality problems? Because YouTube has kind of actually made that really muddy. Like the whole, like the expectation of privacy is almost gone now in public because of YouTube. So I'm like, in this, I'm like, legally, would you even have to blur them out?
Legally, you're right. It is a gray area. And this is where I found myself admiring, you brought it up a second ago, Milk and Cereal. For just being like, fuck it, and throwing it on YouTube, which like kind of helps them like, I don't know if it helps them escape a lot of those legal questions, but it certainly throws some mud in the works.
Yep.
The tricky thing is, yes, technically speaking, if you are trying to like truly own a movie and have it be free and clear and, truly yours with no legal caveats or complications, you need clearances. And that's not just for people who appear in it. That's also for logos, artwork, anything that could have its own copyright. So it was tricky. And that particular shot from that, I know the scene you're talking about. It's the one where they're at the restaurant. Which we shot guerrilla style. We did not have permission to be there. We tried to do it as like subtly as we could. They were actually eating. That was our actual lunch. So that was fun. But yeah, I think we did 3 takes before the staff started to kind of notice that we were up to something. And the 3rd take was the best one. And of course, it's the only fucking one where people come out and like linger. Pain in the ass. And I debated for a long time whether I should go with one of the other takes that didn't have that, but the performances weren't as good. So I ended up just being like, okay, I guess I'll blur them, which was also a pain in the ass. Like Final Cut Pro has tools to basically apply the filters to like in theory track. In practice, you're going to have to go in there and go frame by frame and do it yourself. Yeah.
No, I know that I just did this for a real estate agent that I edit videos for, and I'll tell you, it worked up top perfectly. Like the subject walked out of frame and back in, and it tracked her. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be easy. So I committed to it. And then after that, everything, I had to do it frame by frame. Yeah.
That's literally how it works. You do it for one shot and it's like magic. And you're like, oh my God, it's going to be incredible. And then you go literally to the second shot and it just all falls apart real fast.
What happened?
But yes, technically speaking, we did have to blur them when we signed like the distribution agreement with Terra Films. We went through a lot of like legalese in terms of just because they get films from all over, including from young filmmakers who don't necessarily understand what's permissible and what isn't. Luckily, I had a pretty clear understanding of what we had to blur and what we didn't. And luckily, with found footage, you can get away with a decent amount. Like I tried not to do it where I didn't have to. I think the other one where we had a bunch was when the angry fans are kind of verbally accosting Rebecca after her drunk thing. We had to blur. There was like a U-Haul or something with like a really fucking prominent logo or something. And then there were some other people who thought there was an actual fight happening. Like some people started to like come in to like intercede.
Oh, damn.
It didn't
which
work.
was funny.
Did they roll with it, or did they stop and be like, "Oh no, we're making a movie"?
We actually the one take you see in the movie is the one take we did.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow,
That was
good.
it.
Okay.
One take wonder. So by the time they like actually started to get involved, we cut and we were like, oh, nope, never mind, we got it. Thanks, sorry.
Well, Kyle, I hope I didn't put any worry in your mind that people are going to be distracted by that, because to me it read like the whole thing is like a mixed media narrative.
Sure.
So people being blurred out in the background, it felt almost like, how when people get activated online and they've declared somebody a villain and they're like, our goal here is to dox them. A lot of the times they'll blur out people in the background. And just by the nature of that clip, it did feel pretty predatory. Like, oh, we're going to expose these people. But, we're superheroes, so we don't want to get these other people involved.
Yeah.
So it did have its own internal logic there. But it did stand out to me where I'm like, I doubt you're as neurotic as I am when looking at videos. So I'm like, it's probably a legal thing.
It was mostly a legal thing, but I did try to justify it sort of how you were saying. It was like, hopefully this person who we never meet, obviously, who took the footage, just decided like, wow, the focus is on them. In hindsight, maybe I should have blurred the whole thing around them. I don't know. But that's maybe food for thought
I
for the
didn't
future.
notice that even in that scene. So I don't think you had. I think it was fine.
Yeah, the performances
were
that good. That
terrified,
like
but
that. So Russ will be looking at everything. But all right, so you're a busy man. I am so glad that you joined us for this episode, Kyle. Because right after this ended, I reached out to you. We've been chatting a little bit, and I was like, "You got to come on this show." So I'm so glad you came. But
I'm honored to have been invited. Oh, sorry, please.
So basically, I just want to know, you're like what? You're an enthusiast of theme parks, you write books, you're making movies, you're getting married. So what else is coming up? Give us a sneak peek of what's next in the works of Kyle Tague.
Well, right before I hopped on, I got to page 50 on what's likely to be the next feature.
All right.
Working to also found footage. Basically,
that was my next question.
Yep. Here's what you'll like to hear. I think the sort of 2-year plan is there's going to be, including this one, a trilogy of found footage features.
Love it.
Don't Peek.
Oh, that's perfect.
Working titles, previous Tenet, and No Home, Only Alice. No Home, Only Alice will, if the stars align, also star Kelly Rook Daly, who played Rebecca in Don't Peek.
She was great.
That's going to be a Florida Gothic that takes a lot of inspiration from Carnival of Souls.
Love it.
Twin Peaks
Florida.
Fire Walk with Me.
Evan likes Florida.
We just shot my feature that I'm in post on. We just shot is in Florida. Yeah, it's called Florida, Comma Man. It's in Pensacola, just north of there. There's a small town called Jay. It's in the Panhandle. So
Gotcha, nice. We'd probably shoot in. My mom and sister live in Fort Myers.
Okay,
so the Southwest area, yeah. So my mom's already offered to let me just use the house.
Rad.
And I was like, well, great. We'll build it around that. There's a beautiful slough right over that way too that we want to use. That seems pretty easy access in terms of filming. We're really excited about that one. That one's just in a bit of a hold. We have a script that we're really excited about. And Kelly's super excited. It's just right now it's a scheduling availability thing. Both with her, another actor I'm hoping to cast, obviously the availability of the house, the travel, but we're hoping to do that in the next year or two. Previous Tenet is the one I'm writing right now. That one we're going to shoot here in Los Angeles. Have a lead actor in mind for that. We're hoping if all goes well, we'd like to shoot that one this year.
Oh, that'd be great.
Oh, yeah.
You should submit it to our film fest and come out and visit us.
Well, yeah, I guess I have to now. Yeah.
Period. Yeah, you got to keep in touch. We're going to have fun. You got to come turn up with us.
Hell yeah.
Okay, I'm excited. So you got more found footage in the works. So, Don't Peek. Everybody need to go watch this. But where can everyone follow or go check out any websites that you want to plug so people can get more info on these upcoming films?
Yeah, so I'm not really on Twitter /X anymore, but you can find me on Blue Sky at Kyle Tague. It's my name. You can find me on Instagram at Kyle Tague. That's my name. I desperately need to update the website, but my production company is called Jump Scare Factory. So either KyleTague.com or JumpScareFactory.com takes you there. You can see some of my older, not nearly as good shorts, but there's stuff there.
Okay.
And
Hell yeah.
I'll be updating all of those with information on my next few projects as I have news.
Oh, okay.
Rad.
Sweet.
Well, we had a great time talking with you, and I'm excited. Everyone needs to watch Don't Peek. This movie's great. And yeah, we'll be seeing you soon, I hope.
I hope so too. Thanks so much, guys.
Kyle,
Yeah,
it's
dude.
great
Thanks for
meeting you,
coming
man.
on.
Yeah.
Enjoyed
Oh,
it.
of course.
All right, I love you, brother. Thanks
All
for
right,
hanging
y'all.
out.
This was
Of course.
Foreplay with Kyle Tague. We'll see y'all next time. Bye.
Bye, y'all. Kyle,
Thanks for listening to Footage Foreplay. If you enjoy the show, please consider leaving a review, sharing it with a friend, or simply hitting like. These small gestures are a great free way to support this mayhem, and if you find some footage we should be fondling, email us at footageforeplay@gmail.com. Check back every Tuesday and Thursday for new episodes, and remember, don't skip the foreplay.